Hello, welcome to True Hoop with me, Jarod, Hector, and Coach David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
As I said to you off air, I'm, as an American, not so great. As a human being, I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
Same, ditto. um, you know, uh, Maybe live in interesting times is a saying that
Interesting. Interesting is not the word that I would use, but you can use it. Like, I understand how it's applicable. I could think of some better words.
Yes, there are better words, but we want to start this podcast off not on such a negative and
You're right.
dreary note.
You're right.
David, you had a piece come out today about the LA Clippers, and they are
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. They lost a 21-point lead to the Lakers last night, and look,
in the fourth quarter.
Look, kudos to LeBron for that spectacular performance, the Lakers, all that. But as David Hoffman says, and listen to this show, it isn't that LeBron is not capable of doing those things. Of course he is. We just saw it again last night. It's just that when you are at this advanced stage, they just happen less frequently. That's all. And so, he did this amazing thing. Are we likely to see this again this week or next week? Probably not, right? Like, given what it takes to get to that level. But needless to say, they won. They played well. And look, whenever you got to come back like that, the other team has to help you out too, right? And so the Clippers not doing some things also aided in the Lakers' comeback. But anyway, David likes to look at things, he's not a one-game reactionary kind of person. He looks at over the totality. And we've been high on the Clippers for a while, despite them being 5-5 in their last 10. He just likes them. Paul George has been out for most of that time. He's liked what he's seeing from the Clippers. They're healthy. Paul George aside at the moment. And if those things, once he gets back and he's fine, you like a lot of what you see from this team to come out of what we would say is a
morass.
Morass in the Western Conference. I mean, ideally, I think you'd love to see Denver, LA healthy for a conference finals. But let's talk about what you like from the LA Clippers and why they're your pick to win the West.
Well, first of all, we can diagnose what happened last night in the fourth quarter. There's a thing in basketball where you talk about take what the defense gives you, and I told you that's not a great philosophy. Why would you ever let the defense decide what you can and can't do? It makes no sense as a strategy. There are times where it does, because if what they give you is a great shot, beautiful. But if they don't give you a great shot and you still shoot it, well, that's not very smart. So, but there's still it's a general rule in basketball. We want to take open shots and we want to get a good shot and move it to a great shot. None of these things are eye-opening. And yesterday, twice, Norm Powell's man kind of went over a screen. And so normally you would shoot the three when they go under the screen, but they went over it and he still shot it. This was early in the fourth quarter. Why did he do it? Because they're winning by 21 and 19 points. And watching it, my brain, the way it works, which is nothing impressive, it'll just say, "Oh, that's a mistake," and I don't necessarily consciously do it. It just pops in there. Oh, that's a mistake. I always liken it to that. Did you ever see Searching for Bobby Fischer? Yeah. So I read the book. It's amazing. I saw the movie long ago and again more recently. And there's a great scene in the final chess match where I probably said this before on the show, where Ben Kingsley's character plays the chess master. Lawrence Fishburne is also a chess master, but he does it from the park. He's not schooled in the way that his character is, and so Bobby Fish, the kid, Josh Waitzkin's opponent. By the way, Travis Moran has a connection to the real person in the movie. Oh. Yeah, so I think it's the friend of the kid that plays.
That's cool.
Who's a real person?
Wow.
I think Travis grew up playing chess with him.
Wow, that's cool.
Anyway, Ben Kingsley sees they're playing chess, and the current champion moves the piece, and Ben Kingsley said that's a mistake. And so right then, it's always kind of been how I, as a coach, that's a mistake. And so the context of it is, dudes, the game isn't over yet. You're not up 21 with 5 to play. You're up 21 with 11 to play. They scored first possession of the fourth quarter off a steal and a Plumlee putback that AD almost got to. And so, it's just arrogant, casual, whatever you want to call it. It's a mistake. And they just kept making just silly mistakes, thinking the game was over. And they've got a guy named LeBron James and a guy named Anthony Davis. Hachimura hit a huge three and then a nice drive, and boom.
Yep.
But the Clippers were missing Paul George and Zubats. and they've not been shooting well of late, but have been one of the better shooting teams in the league most of the season. And I like that the pick and roll game they have. So they're a heavy ISO team, understandably so. James Harden, Paul George, and a guy named Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
So those guys are hard to guard, period. And you can space around them. And they all have their own sense of gravity with and without the ball. Adding a weaponized pick and roll game gives them texture, gives them options in the postseason when you're trying to load up on those ISOs and maybe having success. They're going to be able to turn to a very effective pick and roll game. It's like in football, people always wonder, how is Travis Kelce still catching the ball when everyone knows he's going to get it? Back in my day, it was Shannon Sharp. The tight ends who just nobody could guard, but put 3 guys on them. Well, they have other options. And so you got to pick your poison. So the Clippers have a new poison to offer. That pick and roll game has really gotten good. And so the reason why, it's a crapshoot. Them and Denver are pretty much coin flip to me. If it wasn't so hard to win a championship, I would pick Denver. But tell me how many teams we've seen repeat that weren't named the Warriors with Steph Curry.
Not many. Yeah,
been a long time.
The Heat, the last team to do it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they have got on LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, right? Yeah. Fucking hard.
Really hard.
They only won 2.
Yeah.
So Jokic is incredible and is not easy to pick against. So that's why I say it's more of a coin flip with them. But I still have trouble with their bench. OKC never done anything close to this. Minnesota never did anything close to this before. Boston, in the East anyway, is a favorite. But in the West, they're all winnable series and losable series. So I also, the narrative of James Harden always sucks in the playoffs. I reject that.
It's overblown.
I don't think there's a character flaw in him. I don't think it's in his DNA. He's never had a teammate like Kawhi Leonard before. He's not Joel Embiid. Kawhi is more of a ball handler, and although Joel is incredible. And Doc Rivers isn't their coach. I think Ty Lue is very good, if not elite. And so, yeah, I think that they're going to be a very, very tough team to knock out 4 games in 7 in the spring.
Yeah, I like their optionality, the size with George, Kawhi, and look, Harden's a big guy too. He's 6'5", and he's solid, right? This is a big team.
You can't just post him,
right? For sure, you cannot post him. Zubac is a big dude, and when they want to go small, they can do some things like Norm Powell coming off the bench, spacing out with threes. Russ gives them that athletic guy who can drive downhill and touch the paint still at this advanced age. And, you watch basketball and you see it, the importance of having guys that can beat their man off the dribble and get into the paint that causes such turmoil for the defense, right? Because now you've got to be like, shit, my teammate's man got beat. I got to go help, right? And, right, that causes scrambling and delaying on the back end, which is so huge, right? I was watching the Indiana game last night, and so much of their good stuff came from whenever somebody penetrated and got into the paint. I was like, oh, look, wide open 3 in the corner, this thing over here. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, you mean the Pacers game?
Pacers game last night. Yeah.
In that game, Siakam figured out that Tyrese has a lot of gravity to him, and not just gravity, but attention. So keep moving, my man. Keep moving. And Siakam's hands are incredible.
Yeah.
He made some catches like, whoa. Normally, big, heavy guys have hands like that. He isn't that, and he just catches everything. And Tyrese and they've already played 10 games together.
Not that many games together.
So they closed the game really well. In the Clippers situation, I just think that Harden can't go out like this. He's a truly a singularly talented player in this era of that we have now, and we can't just have them be in one final where they lost in 5 games to the Heat.
No, you're right.
There's no basketball gods.
Or that they were up 3-2 on the Warriors and really should have won that series had Chris Paul not busted his hamstring. Like, this guy, he is a savant basketball player. Like, his understanding of the angles and nuances just of the pick and roll alone will blow your mind. You're just like, man, this guy is a genius. And you love that combo between him and Zubac on the pick and roll.
Yeah, so I showed a bunch of clips. I mean, hey, I wrote this thing 2 weeks ago, and then we just, for different reasons, we didn't run it, and so we just had to clean it up. So I don't remember all the clips I had in there. But the angles that Zubats is setting on the screen is one thing, but the angle to the rim, I showed this some. You can't just run to the rim. You have to be mindful of where's the ball, what are the angles that he can throw it to me, where are the defenders, both on him, on me, and helpers. And there's space to operate in. Like we were just talking about the Pacers, Siakam was very good at slipping into the open space, the blink of the eye in terms of timing that it was open. And so you can't go to an open spot if the ball is in a position to be thrown to you. Right? That's something you have to teach young players all the time, including high school players. It doesn't matter if you're open if they can't throw you the ball. It's why it's cheating in middle school, for example. And so I cheated by teaching the kind of press that I would teach my son's AAU teams, because your opponents often can't throw the pass that needs to be made to the one guy that can get open. They're just not strong enough. It's really unfair. And so sometimes I felt really badly that this realized they're never going to beat us in 1,000 quarters because we're not giving them
the easy bit.
What
Right.
we're giving them, they can't execute.
Right.
Yeah. And so, but when you get older, they can make that pass and really burn your press. And so it doesn't matter if you're open. Can they throw it to you? That's one reason why, for example, you'll see teams show with their long guard and a big, they'll show on the ball screen and not just drop or switch, because you've got to now throw a pass through long arms, big hands, long fingers. All that shit matters. It really does. We're going to get to a really long dude in a little while later, Phoenix, who's playing some good defense. That stuff matters. And so you have to get that timing down when, as James Harden, Zubats, this is when I need you to be in this spot, not a second later and not a second earlier, because I can't get you the ball then.
Right.
That takes time. There's a coordination, no different than a quarterback and a wide receiver in football. I really think I'm now advising clients in the NBA as well as college. Get with your guys on working on the timing without even defense. If you can't complete it against Air, you definitely can't complete it against someone else. And just make sure it looks like it will in a game, right? If you're not just throwing the ball from A to B, because in a game that won't work. Make it look like a game, time it up right, get that synchronization down. And I think that's what Harden and Zubats have done, and Plumlee too. And last night, Daniel Tice started.
Yep.
They're playing three centers sometimes because Zubats is out right now. And so I think a lot's on Kawhi, a lot's on James, less on Paul George, a lot's on Ty Lue. Right? How are you going to build this out? I like Ty Lue. I'm going to trust him.
I think it's very good. And then what you're also talking about too, David, is why we often see it difficult for new partnerships to win championships in year one. It happens and it's possible, but it's very, very hard because of what you talked about, which is you need that time and those reps to build that synergy where part of what makes, the Steph Curry, Draymond Green pick and roll so effective is they've been doing this shit for damn near a decade plus, right? So it's a mind meld. They just know, they know the beat, they know the half heartbeat. It's synchronicity and it's beautiful. You get that through reps, not just, all right, one day we decided we're going to play a game and now we're good at it. No, like you got to continually drill it, fail at it in games, see where it's wrong. Oh, it's not working. Here's why. And that, not everybody's afforded the opportunity to do that. This is why I love Indiana's potential, because if they keep Pascal long-term and they already have Tyrese long-term, that could be a beautiful partnership going forward. So, but we'll see. Listen, I love the Clippers. Again, a healthy Clippers team, I think, is fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do the rest of this season. In the West, David, we said Denver, of course, is a challenger. I was watching Minnesota last night play Memphis. I think it was second night of a back-to-back from Minnesota, and I was impressed with just their fight in that game. Memphis played well, but, they're so depleted. I loved a lot of the young guys, but Anthony Edwards is good in that game. OKC, again, as we always say, like, they have no experience until they have experience, right? But who knows? They could potentially get to a conference finals, or they could win the first round and get into the second round, right? And all of that would be great for them. So I think the West will be very interesting. There's no clear cut like, oh my God, Boston's so much better than everybody else. But I think that makes for a different type of playoff atmosphere, and we could see what happens there. one team that you just alluded to that we didn't mention in the contender list, but if they're healthy, they'll be a tough out, are the Phoenix Suns. And I was noticing something the other day. Bol Bol's been playing some more games recently, and you know me. Everybody who knows this podcast knows my basketball language is tall dudes who can do things. And Bol is a tall, very tall guy, 7'3". He can shoot a little bit. I liked him at Oregon a lot. I remember seeing him here at the Garden. He covered some of those games. He had like one of those season tournament classic games, whatever. And I was like, man, this guy's so tall. He can shoot. He can kind of get into the rim. And for whatever reason, he hasn't really found his way yet in the NBA. I want to say he's in year 5, if that's right. I think he came in the same draft class as Michael Porter Jr., if I'm not mistaken. And he showed some flashes in Orlando last year, but for whatever reason, Orlando decided not to keep him. And he didn't get a ton of rotation time with Phoenix early in the year, but lately he's been playing, and I was like, ooh, I like some things. And for the first time in his career, I checked on dunks and threes. He's actually not a net negative player for his first 4 seasons. Not only net negative, he was a bad net negative player, like -4, -5, like towards the bottom of the league. He is slightly above net positive now. And I was like, ooh, this could be something. And I saw some plays with him on defense and length. And one thing Phoenix doesn't have, David, is great point of attack defense. But with him on the floor and with KD and some length, they could present some problems for some teams.
In theory, yeah. Well, I was. I don't want to be Larry David.
It's just something to note.
No. But I mean, the numbers are the numbers. He had 25, and then the last game, I think he had 12, or 11, but all late in the game. I mean, the first half, but still, it mattered. I don't know if Bol Bol can shoot. He made some threes. It looks funky to me. If he can consistently make it, that's talent. His defensive numbers are really good. He just hasn't played a lot. But I think the question that you've asked is the right one, which is, can this mean something? And every team is looking for someone they didn't expect in October to show up in April and beyond. And, Bol's always been dripping with potential. It's hard. He's slow. I think he's slow.
Very slow.
And thin. And that's not a great combination for an NBA defender. But he's so long that it can make a difference. He's got some skill, but by far the most important and impressive stat is that. The most impressive thing that I see when I'm watching him is he's understanding how to play. That's not so easily described, although I could describe it. We were just talking about getting open. He's moving without the ball. We're going to talk about a Miami Heat rookie in a minute. There's a big difference between knowing how to play and just having talent. And so Bol doesn't just stand in the corner or doesn't just float to the perimeter. He's cutting to the rim some. He's hanging around the rim some. He's leaving the rim to create space if Booker is driving, whatever. He's learning how to play. I remember, I think it was early last year where he was doing well for Orlando.
Yeah, he was.
And then we never heard about him again. So that's why my enthusiasm has been curbed.
I mean, as it should be, right? And I was reading some stuff around the Phoenix media, and, Vogel had said, this comment from Vogel was interesting. He's like, we all love Bol. He said, but Coach Fizz, his assistant, has a real affinity for Bol. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting.
Who said that?
Vogel said that about Fizz. He's like, we all like Bol, but Fizz has an affinity for Bol. I was like, that's a very specific choice of words. He's like, and you can see him. He is teaching him how to play the game. And I was like, I want to talk.
That's my job.
I want to talk to David about this because this is what David does, right? Like, you could have all the raw tools, 7-3, but if you don't know how to play, what the fuck? What difference does it make?
we need to edit. We need to edit this out. I do not want NBA coaches starting to think they should be teaching players how to play. God damn it, Jarod. I found a nice little niche here. I got a bunch of renovations going on in my house. I don't need this. Hey, what a surprise. Teach guys how to play, and they actually learn how to play. Woo. Yeah. And listen, part of it is a player. I was telling someone the other day. Well, we can say this out loud. We were talking about, you and I were just talking about the Pacers. So I've been talking about the Pacers with an agent recently. and we talked about Ben Mathurin. And I said, I think Ben, I've said this before on our show, I think he can be an excellent sixth man scorer in the Norm Powell mode, the current Norm Powell mode. Jamal Crawford, Lou Williams. Right? I go back to the old Bobby Jackson.
These amazing guys.
Before that, Vinny Johnson, the microwave. Yep. Guys that just score, and that's what you want him to do. But I don't know if Ben Mathurin will accept that. I just, when I watch him, I don't get the impression he only wants to be a six-man scorer. I think he wants to be
the man,
LeBron James. Yeah. And sometimes life beats that kind of aberrant confidence out of you, delusional confidence. Sometimes maybe he's right, maybe I'm wrong. But Bol Bol probably came in to the draft thinking one thing. Then he didn't go in the first round, and now what's happened has happened. And so maybe he's finally open to the idea of, you know what, I probably can't just stand and hope the ball finds me. I've got to find ways to get open and create passing angles to myself. It's something I commonly have to teach players. How do you create the open passing angles, whether it's pick and roll or whatever? You can't just stand.
Yep.
Especially in their kind of offense they run, where already it's Booker and KD and Beal to the lesser extent, and so people can be set. Don't let them just stand. Make them move. So if I'm Phoenix, I'm encouraged, and I'm going to really kind of mine this a little bit and see what I can get out of it. Because it'd be nice to have a young cat like that in the postseason.
For sure. Again, and it's not about, is he going to play 30 minutes? No. If he can give them 5, 6, 7, that is valuable.
Anything positive minutes.
Any positive minutes. And again, as I said, if you look at his metrics, this is the first season he is a net positive. Even if it's only 12 minutes a game, who cares? That is 12 positive minutes versus 12 negative minutes. All right.
Was he 80th percentile on defense according to EPM?
Which is, listen.
So, again, not a lot of minutes, but, very welcome.
For sure.
Very welcome.
And one of the great things about Bol is, as many tall, skinny people are, Kevin Durant was a hero of his growing up. And when I remember on Media Day, when he was asked about he was so excited because he's like, this is the guy I watched growing up. And, he and Durant, and, Durant mentors very differently than what people typically see mentors as, right? Where there's like schedule times and whatever. But he'll just sort of see things. And there were a couple of games where Bol either fouled early or did something dumb and not use his length. And KD was on the bench. He grabs a tablet from behind from one of the assistant coaches. And it's like, you can see him basically saying, you're 7'3". Why the hell are you putting your hands over here? Like me. Like, you wall up and tall up and just stand there. Now what? Right? And then you can see that. And then later in the game, he had a couple blocks. And like, you can see him and KD kind of making that eye contact. Like, oh, yeah. And you know how much any kind of praise from those caliber of players do for young guys. It's like the world to them. And, David talks about royal jelly. They love it. Steph Curry telling one of his young teammates something, LeBron, whomever, these guys like eat it up like puppies. And so it's wonderful to see KD. And he's had some nice things to say about Bol, his work ethic in practice. His IQ's getting better. He's starting to understand the game more. Things KD says, like, I didn't even know Bol thought about the game that way. Right. So it's like, ooh, good signs for young Bol. So happy for him.
I saw I read an article about DiVincenzo and how Curry has really not just helped him with some teaching points in shooting, but guidance. And now DiVincenzo is trying to break Curry. Yeah, he's trying to beat Curry in most threes made this year. He's not going to get there.
Only two players that shot 400 threes or more and are shooting over 40%, or him and Steph. That's it.
Yeah. Boy, I wonder if Golden State could use a guy like that.
Well, they had him.
It does cost money. Yeah. So I'm really happy for Dante. Yeah. Listen, you said you watched the Pacers game. Did you see the Obi Toppin dunk?
Oh, yes.
I don't, so maybe I don't understand all the other stuff behind it. The way Tyrese reacted really fired me up. Jumping up and down like he was a cheerleader. I don't know if there was a connection. Was it like a dunk he resurrected?
Who knows?
Okay, you don't know. I thought maybe you knew. I thought maybe I was the one that was an old man, didn't know. But never a bad thing when the face of your franchise is reacting that way to a play you've made. It's a positive. There was a play earlier in the season. They've got an interesting rookie named Ben Shepherd.
Yeah, he can shoot.
That we don't know if he can shoot. He shoots it. He doesn't make a ton, maybe 33, 34%. But I listen, you're going to laugh at me when I tell you, but there's some Klay Thompson in him. And what I mean by that is this. When Klay first made it, he made threes and played defense, and that's it. He averaged 0.1 assists per game. He didn't turn the ball over. I know my role when he first started clicking with the team. Shepherd, I just looked it up today, 97th percentile in turnover rate. Now, he doesn't dribble.
Yep.
He doesn't pass. He races out for dunks.
Yep.
And he shoots threes. He doesn't make a lot of threes yet, but he was drafted in the first round because they think he can make a lot of threes. He plays really hard, and he's like 6'7" as a guard.
Yeah,
he's big. So he made a play against the Knicks a few weeks ago where he locked up Jalen Brunson to ice the game. If Brunson scores, they win. And Shepherd ended up being on Brunson. He didn't foul him. Brunson missed the shot, which is surprising. And Siakam went crazy for Shepherd.
Yeah.
That's a good vibe right there.
Yeah.
That's a culture that's working.
Yeah.
When you start doing that stuff. I don't follow guys on Instagram, but I've heard guys like Pascal and Tyrese praising the young guys on Instagram. That's what you're looking for right there.
Yes.
So whatever KD is doing for Bol Bol, and Bol Bol's not that young, but he ain't old. No. Phoenix could use some new energy. Yeah. That would help a lot.
Yeah. Listen, it's royal jelly. David talks about it all the time, right? You love up on these guys, man, and you'll see amazing things happen. You know, these superstar awesome athletes need love too. They're no different than any other human being on the street, right? Like it's a wonder what you can do when you give them a little bit. But these are all David's secrets, so we don't want to tell any more NBA coaches what to do, so they take away David's livelihood. All right, guys.
Please,
we'll be back after.
Nobody coach anybody.
We'll be back after a brief commercial break. Speaking of coaching, David, you're watching enough basketball games and you hear what I like to call coach speak, and you know what coach speak is. One of the phrases you often hear is a coach saying to his team, they need to feel us. All right. And clearly that connotates some type of physicality the coach wants the other team to feel. And it can be both ways, right? Physicality defensively as well as physicality offensively. It's not one side of the floor dependent. And I want to talk to you about this because I was like, well, how do you exactly teach physicality? I mean, yes, you can be big, but how do you teach people to be physical offensively and defensively? And then conversely, how do you teach them to do that when officiating is, to be nice, inconsistent?
Okay. Physicality, play with force. These are things we talk about. All right. You know what a ghost screen is, or a veer screen. Well, don't only set those kinds of screens because no one's touching anybody. Let's get some real screens, right? As the offensive player that's being screened for, run your man into the screen. The screener is going to be right there. He's going to be wide leg, powerfully standing. Run your man into him. Don't just touch, block out with your body, your ass, your hips, your shoulders, your torso. Make them feel you on the glass. Conversely, when they go to block you out and barely touch you, hit them harder, spin off of them. These are things you can do. When you can, jam your guy from running easily to where he wants to go in the half court. You're a big guy and your man wants to go set a screen, get in his way. Try to bump him off that line. You're guarding a guy about to use a screen or two. Try to keep him from doing that. Block him from the path he initially wants to go. These are the kind of things when you talk about playing with force. I texted with a player last night at halftime. You need to take a charge. That your team is lacking energy. If you get the call, even better. Right. But just the process of doing it might get your guys to compete a little bit more because taking a charge means you're getting hit. Right? There's a sacrifice there. These are all ways to make them feel you. You might be a slick Bol Bol, as an example, wants to out-slick you. If you want him to get in play with force, bully a guard. Back him down like you're a big man. Don't fade away inside. Go right through him. I do teach fading away often, not always. If I think you can run through that player or jump through that player because he's in the circle and finish, do that. You may force a whistle, right? But you're establishing some force, some physicality, some contact. Don't only avoid that. I don't think you should always play physically. I think that's stupid because the idea is to get open, and sometimes you're not getting open when you're doing things from a physical standpoint. It's got to be part of your repertoire, part of the plan. The strategy you're unleashing on your opponent needs to mix in some physicality, and sometimes more so than others. You might have an opponent who doesn't do well with physicality, or you might have an opponent that if you don't bring it to them, they're going to overwhelm you, and you've got to stand and fight in a sense. That's what it means.
Yeah, for sure. And I was saying that I watched that Minnesota Memphis game.
Yeah.
And in that fourth quarter, you talk about feeling you and playing physicality. I didn't hear Chris Finch say it, but they switched Anthony Edwards on Jaren Jackson Jr. because Jaren didn't have a really good game, 30 points, 14 rebounds, whatever. And Edwards gives up a ton of inches to Jackson height-wise because Jaren's 6'10", 6'11", whatever.
Yeah, 5,
right.
6 inches. Yeah.
But Anthony Edwards was battling him physically in the post. You see your point, not letting Jaren get comfortable in the spot he wanted to catch the ball, fighting, using his legs to step over in front of him, elbows to get in front of his body, right? And sort of doing that wrestling. And I think oftentimes referees will not always, let smaller guys get away with a little bit more against bigger guys when they're wrestling them. And that physicality helped Memphis in that fourth quarter. Minnesota neutralized Jaren a little bit. And that's important, right? If you're going to have that advantage, use it.
It's one of the secrets actually to get your team to play more physically is get your guards to do it. If you have big men that aren't very physical, you're probably in some trouble unless you're super skilled. It's really a grudge match down in the paint. If your guards are willing to hit people, get it. So if you're a guard and your big man is helping, whether it's you or not, and his big man is now at the rim, loitering around, lurking, put your body on his legs, hit him hard. You sometimes get away with grabbing them, whatever. There are risks for fouls when you do that. But it sets a tone. Yeah, it sets a tone. I've told you before, if you mouthed off to when I was a high school coach, and with my son's group, when I was helping his teams, and you were just mouthy, we had ways of reminding you that we're not just a bunch of athletic, fast guys that play super fast. We've got size guys too. And so we would bring one of our big guys in the game, and I would never, ever do anything dirty. But most kids are poorly coached, and so their teams don't talk through screens. And so we would have our super fast guy that was a Big Ten level talent, just a dumbass kid, unfortunately, but a really talented player. He would get cooking, bring them up to the court. We would have one of our big kids who he went to Morehouse, very, very bright young man, and he stood at half court. And he got real wide. He was a big boy, 6'6" and big, 6'7" big. And we'd run that little guard right into him. It just took one. He never said a damn word again. Yeah. But that's also playing with physicality. Also, our guards it was a call they had. Literally, this is the call. When they did this, it meant, hey, I need to run this cat through you. So because whatever he's doing to me, I need to bring him down a notch. And coaches didn't often do it. The players did it. It's a physical game.
It is.
And you got to do it without grabbing and holding and pushing. Those are easy calls. So it starts with your feet and it starts with your mind, having a relentless mindset, and then a motor that keeps moving. And that's your lower body.
And honestly, David, not that we plan on talking about them, but that's, look, we talked about how you don't trust Minnesota, and I'm with you. But that's what I see from them on the defensive side of the ball. Their guards are physical, and Anthony Edwards, their best player, wants to do that. And I think it's got to be a godsend for Finch, because if your best player wants to guard and be physical and do that, I mean, of course you got to coach. Everybody else is going to do it. Well, if that guy is going to do it, who am I? I got to come off the bench. I got to guard too. And you see it with Minnesota. I love the way they play defense.
Yeah, they're going to make an appearance for me at the end of the show.
little tease for those of you guys out there. David, one of the things we always talk about is the next frontier and teams that really will be on the sort of have the competitive balance, or the ones that really are competitive edge will understand development, scouting, where to find talent, where to find guys who help you make winning plays, all these various things that we talk about. But most teams just aren't good at various levels for a variety of reasons. But sometimes by happenstance, teams are forced into situations where they have no choice and they have to learn about what other guys are on their roster and development. Memphis is in that situation right now with Morant and Bane, everybody being out. So they know, hey, look, G.G. Jackson and Vince Williams Jr., these guys are players. Who knew? Well, you should have known. You drafted him. So they're getting to learn that. Atlanta, they're in an interesting position right now. Trae Young's going to be out for a month. And, this is a team 2 seasons ago. We were like, they could win an NBA championship. They had all the pieces there.
I would definitely
write They had all the pieces there. But, shit happens in this league and things didn't work out for a variety of reasons. They're on their second head coach since you wrote that piece. All sorts of bad things. But now with Trae out for a month, I'm wondering if this gives Atlanta not only permission, but visual evidence and license to see maybe we move on from Trae Young and do something different here.
Yeah, Alejandro wrote that article. It's funny. I was reading it. Funny how bias works. I'm reading the article, and there's a real sarcasm to it. And I did not know who wrote the article. The way I was reading it, I didn't see it. And I didn't like the sarcasm. And then I thought to myself, wait a second. I know this voice. So I went back to the beginning and realized, oh, fuck, John's writing it. So then I laughed because he's funny. Like he's earned the right to be sarcastic in my point of view. He's not a mean-spirited man at all, if you know John. So, yeah, he poses a good question. He talks about them going to LA, doing a deal with the Lakers, Trae Young. Yeah, I mean, they've got some talent on their team. They've not been able to figure it out. They've got DeJounte for a while at a good price. It'll be interesting to see what they put together. The Lakers could be good be funny if Cam Reddish ends up going back. He looks like he's a good player.
Back to Atlanta.
He made a big three. He made a big shot in the game. At least one against Clippers last night.
Yeah, it's that weird thing, right? Because you draft Trae and you think, okay, this is our cornerstone, this is our franchise future. And for whatever reason, maybe you realize, okay, we can't build around him because of the other end of the court. Although I will say he's giving more effort on defense this year. He's trying. I think he's small and just very limited, and there's only so much you can do. As you said, skinny and not quick is not a good recipe. Well, being small and frail also probably not a good recipe to bring very good defensively.
Yeah, it wasn't me. Someone that I read talked, or maybe that I heard, talked about the guards that are built like fire hydrants. Kyle Lowry, right? Lou Dort, right? So I like those guys now when I'm projecting. They're small, but you can't move. Jameer Nelson, nobody could post that dude. I remember very well having a guy in the Magic. And so it makes a difference when you have a little strength to you. You can't just be pushed around. And so Trae's not built like that. No, he's slight.
But a supremely gifted offensive player. I mean, supremely elite, like best among the best in the world. So then the question is, what's the best scenario you put him in, right? You put him on a team with a bunch of long, super rangy, defensive, athletic wings who can cover for him, right? And kind of hide some of his deficiencies. I just think it may be a situation where Atlanta's, because of the injury, he's going to be out for a month. And look, they have no incentive to tank because they got picks going out. So they're right now in 10th. And Brooklyn's in 11th, and Brooklyn's 4 games behind, and Brooklyn is in a sad state of affairs right now. New head coach Kevin Ollie, I think he finally got his first win.
And they lost a very smart executive.
Yes, who just got hired. Oh God, where's
Charlotte.
He going? Charlotte. Mm-hmm. So let's just say things aren't looking great in Brooklyn right now. So I doubt they catch Atlanta, who's 4 games up on them. So they're going to be a playing team, and if they still maintain and God forbid play even better, I think the front office there is going to be like, look, we already know they've already been entertaining ideas of moving Trae. This is not news. But if they play well, they might be like, look, we can get off of this. We got a guy in Murray who may fit a little bit better, not as high upside offensively, but can guard, and we can figure out and get some nice things back in return for Trae. Could be the rebuild. It's a shame because I know Atlanta fans are probably hoping this is our guy, this is our next Dominique, whatever. Listen, it doesn't always work out that way, right? That's just how the NBA is.
Back when I used Twitter, I tweeted, it seemed like 2 years in a row when Trae was going crazy in playoff games, like, don't tell Atlanta they got the bad end of that trade deal with Dallas.
Right, yeah.
Even though Luka's invariably a better player. Don't tell Hawks fans that because of what the success they're having. Well, I don't write that anymore. I don't go on Twitter anyway, but we all know what ends up happening. And I know this, DeMarcus Cousins benefited from going from Sacramento to New Orleans and playing with Anthony Davis, who was a better player than him. It seemed to even him out some. I maybe Trae needs to go play with LeBron and AD, and be humble a little bit. Like, I'm not the best player on my team, because rumor is He's not the best teammate. He doesn't bring the best out of his guys. Not to say LeBron is. I'm not saying that, or AD for that matter. They're not the best teammates, but that doesn't mean they can't get him to lock in more on what they need for what he needs to do to be better. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something to keep your eye on, folks. About what happens in Atlanta this summer. All right, David, the Miami Heat, winners of 8 of their last 10. Look out! It's that time of year. It's very easy for people to bet on the team that has went to the conference finals 3 out of the last 4 years and the NBA finals 2 of the last 4, right? That's the Heat. Spo, Jimmy, Bam, the infrastructure, Heat, hashtag Heat culture, all those things. They are now, I want to say, 5th in the East right now, which, and that 5 through 9 range is all jumbled up. We got a couple of games separating people, so it's really tight. So you win 2-3 games in a row, you'll find yourself somewhere else on the team loses to. You're down to the plan. That's just how it's going to be, I think, the rest of the season. But a player that's getting a lot of buzz and attention is someone who we like. Jaime Jaquez Jr. played at UCLA, played 3 years or 4 years of college.
He's 22 now.
Played a long time. He wasn't no one and done, right? So he's an older rookie, and people love him. They're high on him. They think, Heat fans love him a lot. And we both like him. But like most rookies, David, according to the advanced metric, he's a net negative player. In his last 10 games, he's had 3 net positive performances. I know he had a huge scoring game, but he wasn't even a net positive in that game, I don't think. I think that was actually a net negative game. But how excited should Miami Heat fans be about Jaime Jaquez Jr.?
It depends on which one they're getting. He was 39 and 37%, I think, his first 2 months from 3. I think this month he's at 27%. What's it going to be? Is he going to be a reliable shooter? Because then I like him. He's more athletic than you think. He knows how to play. He does play with some force. He does play with energy. Doesn't need the ball in his hands a ton to feel like he's fitting in. This guy, he's not thirsty for the ball. He's got to be able to make shots. So it really comes down to that. They, as a team, are starting to look better.
They are.
Yeah. A lot better.
Yeah.
Like this is who I thought they could be early on in the season. And this is what Spo does. He kind of keeps his team intact. They did add Rozier and DeLon Wright. I think those are 2 also going to be good additions in the playoffs. And Jaquez, they probably won't need much from him down the stretch, but they do now. He started last game. Making threes really helps a lot because he's just okay everywhere else.
Yeah, I just wonder, it's easy to get seduced when fans have that, your young player does that 25-point night and it's huge and the crowd all gets, because rookies are all about hope, right? The young guys, they could be great in the future, right? And, this is what you do for a living? They could be, right? There are things to like. 37% early.
Gotta work.
Right? But
you gotta work.
There's no guarantee, right? But anyway, I think, yes, again, I'm with you. I doubt they'll rely on him much in the postseason, or he'll be even able to, contribute that much. But look, he might be thrust in that position because who the hell knows, right? Somebody turns an ankle, this thing happens. I don't know.
Yeah, he's interesting enough where like he might deliver in the postseason, whereas some guys I might say they're not ready yet. He might. Okay. He's a little bit more mature on the court, knows how to play better. Plays hard, which I think matters. He's going to have to make some shots to be able to stick.
Well, another player who, because of the position he plays and because of his role on his team, is going to have to deliver if this team wants to be good is Chet Holmgren. How are you feeling about Chet's chances of delivering in the postseason?
I've not watched him recently. Just given the situation, I'm less high on him as I will be next year.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just because I do think that I was talking to an agent about this the other day who's had clients win world championships or NBA championships. And he was trying to say that, it's some of the guys on OKC or Indiana and DeLon Wright has been in the playoffs in a while. Whatever. They're going to struggle. Maybe. It is increased pressure. It is a different vibe. Chet's going to feel it. But he also has kind of been bred for this.
Yeah.
It ain't the first big game he's played. That's for sure. And so I think that I think he'll be good defensively. We'll see how things go near the end of the season, but yeah, I wouldn't count on making 50% of his threes or 42%.
Right.
Probably not going to be that. And I think they'll look to expose him more, get into his body more, get him to foul more. I think it's unlikely to be a great postseason for him this year, but by next year, watch out.
Ref games, as Henry calls it, those vet players will really know. All right, this is the real season now, buddy. Let's see how you work when I play these ref games with you. All right, it is top 5 time. David has already alluded to a team that we're going to see in the top 5. Wait, and this might be the first time I think he's had them in the top 5 this year. Maybe not. I don't recall.
Miami?
Well, maybe yeah. If it's Miami, then that would be the first time you have this year, right?
Minnesota has been there before too. Miami maybe early this season.
Maybe early.
Because I was very high on them early. Yeah. And so I got Miami back. You probably don't. But I'm looking forward a little bit too. I think Spo has always believed we're going to win with what we got. We're going to win what we got. Okay, here's Rozier and here's DeLon Wright. We're going to win what we have. And they're just kind of coalescing at the right time, and Bam's playing great.
Yeah.
Jimmy's back a little bit now.
I mean, that
they won a big game the other night.
Did.
Without Jimmy in Sacramento.
I mean, that's your 5 line, right? Which means I know you probably dropped the team out. You probably dropped the Cavaliers out, maybe? Or the Clippers?
I did.
Okay. So Cavs are on my 5 line. Still a good net rating team, but they've been, a little wobbly of late. But and they lost to the Bulls last night. But
6-4. Yeah, 6-4 in the last 10 and hit a game winner from half court.
That's true. Shot was so crazy.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, that was that was crazy. All right, number 4 line. Who's there?
I got. Yeah, it's tough. I'm putting the world champs there now. I got Denver in there now. I thought about putting them at 3, but they're lurking. They have a very good record. They play Miami tonight. So I like that. By 4 and 5 play tonight.
Thomas Bryant will get his ring tonight, even though he's suspended. He will get his ring from the Nuggets tonight.
Why he's suspended? Don't even get me started on that. I watched the tape. He should not have been at half court. He was just standing there. And Alvarado went at him.
Right. And
what are you supposed to do? You spent 3 games for just standing there? It seems weird to me.
I
think if he was a starter, he wouldn't have been suspended 3 games.
Not.
Which makes me very sad.
Well, it's like, what's the old NCAA joke? It's like every time Kentucky commits a violation, like Western Kentucky goes on suspension or whatever. It's like that's
exactly.
That's how it goes. We know how the rules work in this society. Nuggets are on my 4 line as well. Who's on your 3 line? Probably the same as me.
I have to give it up for Minnesota. They're 8-2 last 10, and they're playing D. And Anthony Edwards is amazing.
He's so good, David.
Mike Conley, and they extended him. I'm happy with. Yeah.
Anthony is so good. Like I watched him last night. I'm like, oh man. Look, there was some also bad defensive positioning by some of the Grizzlies players, but I'm like, oh shit, one dribble cross. I'm like, you can't stay in front of that dude. He's at the rim already. I was like, okay, he's really good.
Right.
Our top 2 are the same then.
2 there?
Thunder and Celtics. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
No, who Minnesota was your 3rd? Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I got Thunder at 2. They're wrecking people.
People.
If we're doing a postseason prediction, it'll be different. But based on what we're seeing now and projecting how well they're doing anyway in the regular season, I've got them at number 2.
Look, Shaq said this to me. They don't have any championship experience, but no one has it until they have it, right? You don't you have to get it at some point, right? And there is nothing written somewhere that says they can't go to the conference final. Again, to your point, would we say it's likely? No, because of their inexperience. But if they did, we're not going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe it. It's like, oh, Shea's really awesome. No. And so is a lot of other people on that team, like
they're competing for a 1 seed.
They're very, very good. And the Celtics just have not gone away yet. I figured they'd all right, we're bored now. Nope. Still look, I don't know what that means for the future, but the idea that they're not playing with their food, I think is a good sign. I think.
Yeah, they're gonna have to deal with the weight of expectations, like OKC won in round 1 and Minnesota in round 1. It weighs on you a little bit. After round 1, it won't weigh on nearly as much because they made it past the first round. Even if they're a top 4 seed and they're favored, it's not the same. They'll feel like, hey, especially if they're playing a team like the Warriors, the Lakers, the Clippers, Denver, teams that have already done more. They'll feel like the underdog. That's a good feeling to have. Boston, every series they're expecting to win, and but I think they're good enough to handle that. Just
I
doesn't mean they will, but I think they're good.
I think so too. That starting five is just excellent. Tatum and Brown are who they are, and Drew and Derek White. And Kristaps unlocked something in them that, he got a bad rap for a little while. Like, oh, is that guy like kind of flash in the pan? 1 year All-Star didn't work in Dallas with Luka. He's not very good. I'm like, no, he's really good. Like, he's very, very good.
Dallas should be looking at what they did wrong.
Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah. And that's a topic for another day, because I still think they could be really good.
Oh, well, you talked about making passes and don't go where it doesn't matter if the guy can get you the pass. Well, who can get you the pass no matter how big you put big dudes on him? It's fucking Luka. The guy is sick. The trap comes. I'm like, it doesn't matter. He's going to get the ball. It's coming. Here it is. Wide open. I'm like, how are you able to do? I mean, of course it helps that he's so big. He's 6'8" and like, I don't know, 200 million pounds and just super strong. And
he ain't 190
and super skilled. He's just, watching him, David, and I know you love like the intricacies of like, he's just a brilliant player, man. Like, you can see him like with Jokic, how it's so slow, and he just, I know what's coming next. Here we go. Boop, boop, boop. Just move. It's beautiful.
Just connecting dots.
Connecting dots. All right, guys, enjoy the hoops, and we will see you next week. Take care.